Joining me now is CKE Restaurant CEO Andy Puzder, along with Elizabeth McDonald and Ashley Webster. Andy, to you first. We've been saying on this program for some time that American tech is far and away the place to put your money. You agree with that?
Absolutely. It's American entrepreneurs. What could make you feel better? American entrepreneurs are once again leading the world. It's a great place to put investments. As long as the government doesn't start regulating the internet, we'll be fine.
I knew you'd get that in at the end. Okay, now look, we got a read on the economy this morning. In the spring quarter, our economy is only growing at an annual rate of 1.2%. That's an extremely weak performance. How do you think we should get real growth, say 3 or 4%? How do we unleash the private sector, do you think?
Well, first of all, you need tax policy that will allow businesses to grow and encourage them to grow. Right now, we've got, with President Obama and with what Hillary Clinton is proposing, they're really looking to redistribute income through the Internal Revenue Code rather than encouraging business growth, and Trump would encourage business growth. Second thing would be to reduce oppressive regulations. You know, every problem that Hillary Clinton sees, she thinks has a government solution. Donald Trump, this guy built buildings in New York City. He understands regulation, and he wants to eliminate a lot of the executive orders that President Obama put in place that have been holding businesses back. And third would be a progressive, a more open energy policy, a sort of an all-of-the-above policy, rather than a policy focused on climate change. You know, climate change may be a problem, but it's not our biggest problem. Our biggest problem is radical Islamist terrorism, and maybe if we became energy independent and stopped sending billions of dollars to countries that support radical Islamic terrorism, we could cut it back. So I think those are three things you could do right away that I think would be very effective in releasing that dynamic entrepreneurial energy that we have in the U.S.
I agree with you, Andy, I agree with, but we're not going to do those in the immediate future. I mean, regardless of who wins the election, there's no way you can get any kind of tax change, regulatory change, until way into the early part of next year. It's not going to happen. So, could we hit a recession before we get a change of policy?
Well, look, we're dangerously close. You mentioned 1.2% in second quarter. What you didn't mention was 1.4% in fourth quarter of last year, 1.1% in first quarter of this year, and then 1.2%. Now, you know, you have a 1% GDP growth one time, that could be a blip. 2 times, maybe a coincidence. 3 times is a trend. And this is a trend that's very, very close to recessionary levels. I would hope that it's an election year, so I don't really expect any progress. But I would hope President Obama would foster and support some economic policies that would encourage business growth. But like you, I don't see it happening. The soonest it's going to happen is after we elect Donald Trump, and that could be early next year.
Now, Hillary Clinton made her acceptance speech last night. I want to turn to that. Here's what she said, what she would do in her first 100 days as president. Roll tape.
In my first 100 days, we will work with both parties to pass the biggest investment in new, good-paying jobs since World War II.
Okay, now, Liz, spend a whole lot more, Liz, a whole lot more money. That's government money. Most of it on infrastructure or education. Is that going to get the economy going?
Well, it's taking money out of people's pockets and recycling it through this big, inefficient pump known as the U.S. government. You know, Margaret Thatcher once said, you know, you and I, we take the rail, we take the train. Economists take infrastructure. They ride via infrastructure.
Did she say that?
She did say that. So it feels inefficient. It feels clunky. If you want, you know, here's the thing. I mean, we have a slow motion recovery from Obama's policy. He says he inherited recession, but he created this slow motion recovery. Hillary Clinton is doubling down on it.
Okay, Andy Puzder, if we were to go out there and spend hundreds of billions of dollars on infrastructure, for example, would that get the economy going?
No, you know, I think infrastructure is the least dangerous thing she proposed. We actually could use a little infrastructure spending, but don't expect it to grow the economy. You don't, look, to grow the economy, you don't build a bridge, you build a business. We need self-sustaining jobs. We don't need jobs that are created for a temporary period of time while we do an infrastructure project. But her more dangerous proposals are, you know, she wants to increase taxes to redistribute wealth. She wants to punish companies to try and reduce their taxes. She wants to force companies to share more profits with employees that should go to shareholders. and she wants to increase the cost of hiring employees by increasing worker benefits. So she wants to discourage business expansion, discourage business investment, and increase the cost of hiring people. That's not how you generate economic growth. It's not how you create good-paying jobs. That's not how you get us out of this economic doldrum that we're in.
Now, the other side of the coin is the left really blasting Donald Trump's economic plan. Look at this, and this is a Washington Post headline. Here's the quote. This grim economic forecast about life under Trump is even worse than Tim Kaine said it was. Now, obviously, Andy, you completely disagree with that. They're saying that it would be just awful if Trump was president. We'd have a real economic crisis. You don't agree with that?
Not true.
No?
Not at all. This was done by Mark Zandi, and Mark's a good guy. I know Mark. But he's supporting Hillary Clinton, and it's also the Washington Post, which really has damaged its journalistic credentials in this election by coming out so anti-Trump. What that analysis ignores is what Donald Trump is actually saying about trade. Donald Trump has said repeatedly, trade is good, we need trade, but we don't need massive trade deficits. And trade deficits in and of themselves aren't bad, but massive trade deficits are. How do you reduce massive trade deficits and help American workers? Well, better negotiated trade deals. And how do you argue with better negotiated deals? And enforcing the deals we have. For example, enforcing the tenets of the World Trade Organization when you try and get China to stop cheating. The only time tariffs come up is with respect to people who won't move in their negotiations. And quite honestly, if you're, and Mark Zandi's and the Washington Post analysis really assumed that there would be tariffs. But tariffs are a hammer. They're a negotiating tool. If you're going into a negotiation as a business person, the one thing you don't want to give up are your hammers. You don't want to give up tariffs before you start negotiating. The Chinese have to believe that we would walk away from the table, that we don't need a deal. Well, if you give up all of your tools before you go to negotiate, they're not going to believe that, and you're going to get the kind of deals we have right now, which are deals where other countries take advantage of us. So I think Donald Trump is doing the right thing on trade, and the assumptions in that analysis that we would definitely have tariffs are false.
Okay, quick one. You run two restaurant chains that I know of, and Donald Trump proposes a $10 minimum wage, federal minimum wage, $10 an hour. Go real fast, Andy. Could you live with that?
Look, $10, based on the Congressional Budget Office analysis, $10 would kill 500,000 jobs. The number to which Donald Trump would go is something I'm going to wait to see in his economic policy plan, which will come out in the next few weeks. Don't lock into the $10. $10 is a very high number, and it would kill jobs.
Andy Puzder, thanks very much for joining us. It was a pleasure. Thank you very much, sir. Okay.